Welcome, everybody. It is 7:01. We like to start on time so we can get as much out of the discussion for the 1.5 hours that we are here. Thank you for joining. There was even someone here at 6:10, so I think many of you are as excited as I am to get into today's content and learn more. Just as guidance, the session is being recorded for YouTube. So if you don't want your face captured, you're welcome to keep your video off through the session. Kindly update your Zoom name so it can have your actual name instead of the name of a device. You're welcome to post your questions in the Q&A section. Today we are using the webinar style. But you're also welcome to use the chat to type any views, anything you'd like us to go over again in case, it wasn't clear, comments, thoughts, all of that goes into the chat. We'll be popping in there during the session to see how things are going. So thank you very much for joining us today. Please let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. And if this is your first session or you've been with us, because we've had several sessions in the past year or so, every quarter we meet here. This is our little village because they say it takes a village to raise a child. So this is our little village to help raise our own children. I'm a mom, and to help you with your own children, no matter what age they are. And as always, we say that we are not talking to just parents, as in mom and dad. You can provide parenting as an uncle, an aunt, even as a teacher. There's so many ways that we relate with children in our world or in our spaces. So hopefully the things that we speak about here are applicable even in those environments. So welcome to today's session. And I like to remind people why it is as NACADA we speak about parenting. I forgot to even mention my name. I'm Wendy Gaya Waithaka. I work with NACADA, which is the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse in Kenya. And we talk about parenting because the research shows that positive parenting has a big effect in decreasing the chances of our children using drugs, of mental health disorders. It increases their attainment in school and even their social competencies. So positive parenting is at our heart as NACADA and even as my heart, at my heart, because I've seen how parenting can shift the game for our children in the way that we bond with them, in the way we communicate with them, in the way we set boundaries. In all of these things, we can make a change to ensure that this generation we are bringing up are healthy, they feel safe to be themselves and to leave their indelible mark on this world. So thank you for joining us again today. We are hosting once again, she was with us in the last quarter. We are hosting Dr. Carol Chakua again today, and it's just such an honor to have you with us. She's an author, a therapist, educator, and parenting coach. She has a lot of great content online. You're welcome to interact with that. Not right now. Today, you get to do it face to face with her. Well, face to face over video. And you can get to hear her passion, and she loves to work with busy parents, and boy are we busy in this generation. You add the dynamics of the phone, and even when I'm not in the office, you could be constantly working. And so in this busy age, how do we make time for the things that matter, including parenting? Because we are only with our children for a few years before, and I know some here are even empty nesters, before they leave the nest. We have a little time with them. How do we make that time count? She's an author of Parenting with Your Heart in Mind, and provides ways to be intentional, because things don't just happen, we have to make them happen. And so this week, as we celebrate or commemorate the National Substance Use Prevention Week in Kenya, we are happy to be talking about how parenting can play an important role in prevention of alcohol and drug use. So, this is where we participate. You can scan the QR code to get on the platform, or you can go to www.menti.com and enter the code on your screen so that you can participate. We love this method because it allows everybody to see what we are saying on the screen at the same time. If for whatever reason you are completely unable to do that, you're also welcome to type in the chat. Mungereza, I was wondering if all video and audio is disabled. Yes, in webinar mode, video and audio is disabled for participants automatically. Apologies for that if you wanted to switch on your video, but I'll see when we are doing any Q&A if it is possible to allow you to do that. All right. Deborah, welcome. She says it's her first time here, though she knows Dr. Chakua and she is eager to learn. Karibuni. Jeremiah is also registering his attendance as a novice. I'm sure you mean novice to attending these sessions, not to being a parent. Either way, you are welcome. David is joining us from Nakuru City. It is hot there. Mungereza, okay, that's fine. I see David saying it's his second time. Lamek says it's his first time and he's looking forward to learn. So welcome to all new and returning. We are always glad to host you. Welcome, Nyambura. That is a name I am familiar with. Thank you for your continued attendance, and welcome also to Irene and George Carissa. Everybody else, even if you don't type in the chat, I acknowledge you because I can see we are already at 48. So I'm hoping I've bought enough time for you to get on to Menti so we can proceed with our first question. We love hearing from you, and you know, for us, it's not just about talking to you. When you talk and you post in the chat and interact with these activities, it helps us know where you're at and whether we are meeting your needs. So here we go. Kamilisha sentensi. We used to get that a lot in school. Complete the sentence. I wish my child would be more ... I wish my child would be more... What's the word or phrase that comes to your mind? Please type it and let's see what we wish our children were more like. Great. Keep typing.
Recording in progress.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm sure we can all see the three responses on the screen. There's obedient, confident of her God-given talents, more talkative. That must be a talkative parent who wishes their child was also talkative. Open-minded. I don't know if you wish your child was more like me or you're saying me. I wish my child was more kind, obedient, agreeable, bubbly, and active. I want to make this barcode disappear so we can see everything. Was more of a listener. Self-driven, physically active. Let me see what we have in the chat because I can see some people have also typed there. Independent, disciplined, self-driven, God-fearing, more obedient, not just obedient, more obedient, responsible and obedient, more receptive and open. I wish my child was more self-driven, confident, and proactive. Self-driven, thinking for themselves, honest, proactive. Okay? These are the words that we are seeing. So let's see. There's an AI option here to sort them out. So we can see the most responses are towards confidence, being more talkative, and then we move to issues of obedience and honesty, and being active, whether physically or proactive. Yeah, and I think there's more points for confidence from the chat as well, and disciplined. I wish my child could be God-fearing. Okay, thank you guys for sharing on that. And here's another one. I am worried that if they are not dash. For example, I am worried that if my children are not more responsible, they're not going to manage life on their own. What's your worry about? Once again, you can type in Menti or you can type in the chat. We have the first keyboard warrior response. I'll start by reading what's on the chat and then what's on the screen. Okay, Lucy, I think was responding to the previous one. She would like to see her child more brave, confident, assertive, and outspoken. Elizabeth says that she's worried if they are not more open and deceptive, that she will not be able to help on time. All right, on the screen, we can all see. Don't be shy. Feel free to keep typing. You're only allowed 200 words, though. They will not have meaningful relationships. Okay, I'm worried that if they're not without self-esteem, perhaps it's connected with the other one, that they'll not have meaningful relationships. They seem to work well together. I'm worried that if they're not open, talkative, I won't get to know their thoughts. I'm worried that if they're not confident enough, they'll not be able to stand in for themselves. I'm worried that if they're not more physically active, they may get sick and may be unable to do everyday activities easily. I'm worried that if they are not expressive, they will always struggle with emotional regulation while connecting with others, thus leading to low self-esteem. I'm worried that if they're not responsible, independent, and self-reliant, they'll not be able to survive in the outside world. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat update. I'm worried that if they're not open and able to express themselves, I will be worried if my child can be easily influenced negatively. My worry is that my children will not be able to make their own decisions or his own decision. If they're not independent, they would have a hard time surviving when I'm not around. If they're not more confident, they'll not be able to exploit their talents. I'm worried when they start being secretive. And she'd like to see more assertiveness. That's Esther. Okay, something else has showed up on the screen. I'm worried that if they're not focused, they will lag behind in school. If they're not forgiving, they'll be stuck in life. Ooh, you guys have brought your A game tonight. I'm worried that if they're not open with me, they will not have a confidant to rely on. I'm worried that if they don't take their health seriously, they will die prematurely. Okay. So we have concerns about their physical life, about their emotional life, about their social life, about what else have we put here? Issues of self-confidence, yeah, and skills to be independent and to survive without us, making decisions and solving problems. Okay, and then I have one more. Please don't be tired of me. I think even as we are interacting with these responses, our minds are already shifting into our discussion for tonight. Okay, so today's topic is about how to nurture children who are self-motivated. Yeah, we talked about being self-driven, being independent. So, how does lack of motivation look for your children? Yeah, when you look at them, you say, this one, the motivation levels are low. They're not doing well. What does lack of motivation look like from your end? Type on Menti or in the chat. Okay, Abdi Nasir has started with us on the chat saying that lack of motivation looks like small lies. Yeah, when they start telling small lies. When they neglect things they love doing and somebody knows the motivation is low or lacking. We have low self-esteem. When they have to be pushed to do something. And in some seasons, it feels like you're pushing about almost everything. Okay, easily irritable and annoying. Oop, sorry. Did that disappear? Not completing homework and other duties. Procrastinating. I'll get it done later, tomorrow. When they are unkempt and their grades drop. They're not even taking care of themselves, huh? On the chat, laziness, avoidance, skiving. If they're reluctant to do anything you tell them to do, sometimes everything you tell them to do, when they're pushed to do homework, and the pushers are here, lack of confidence with their mates or their friends, lack of motivation looks like not being bothered. Yeah, whatever. Easily irritable and annoying. When they stay on their phone too long without doing household chores. Difficulty waking up, negative speech, little or no interest in anything, procrastinating. All right, I think that sums it up. And at that point is where I hand over to Dr. Chakua. You can exit Menti on your end so that you're able to interact with Dr. Chapa's presentation from here on. Deborah adds that a lack of willpower to do things is another sign that motivation is low. Wasting time on one task for too long. All right, so over to you, Dr. Chakwa. Welcome and thank you for joining us again. This year, this is the first time we're interacting this year. Is it still Happy New Year? It's a bit too late for that. It's
Always
still
Happy New Year. It's always
So,
Happy New Year.
all
As long
right.
as we haven't met. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to put stop sharing so that I can share, or I just share over yours? There we go. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Wendy. I think that just really sets the tone for us for this discussion and great interaction there. Thank you all for engaging. Like Wendy said, you're here, you have your A game on already. So let's keep doing this. So I don't know if it's evening, morning, afternoon, or late in the night for you, but sending you greetings from East African time. It is 7 something, and such an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me back, Wendy. I am a long-term friend of Nakada, done quite a number of engagements together. And so it's also such an honor to be here for the second time in the capacity of presenting in a webinar and talking about one of the most passionate spaces and topics, and that is just parenting and how to foster self-motivation in children and in teenagers. We're just going to pick up from where you have all been sharing, and I think just invite us to a place of mindfulness. This is basic with all the sessions that we run at Stawi Camp for Wellbeing, is to just take a moment and be present. Be present with where you are, be present and notice what's around you. Be more in touch, using all your senses to just be more in touch and present. You could even be washing dishes now. That's still okay. If you're listening in, be more mindful of the water that's running over your hands, and whatever senses you're using, sense of touch, listen to the water running on the dishes. And if you're scrubbing sufurias, just take a moment to appreciate the sound of that, the steel wool of the sufuria. If you're cooking, pay attention to the smells that are coming your way. If you are seated and relaxing, still just pay attention to what it is that you're connecting with your sense of touch, with your sense of smell, with your sense of vision, with your sense of hearing. If you have some drink with you, you can take a moment to just connect with your sense of taste. So I'm just giving us about 30 seconds to breathe in and out and just notice what's around you. So when I have conversations with parents and those, when I talk about parents, I talk about those who have children in their space. You may not be biological or adoptive, but as long as you are nurturing children in your space by virtue of being a teacher, a social worker, probation officer, whatever space you're in, a community worker, if you are have children in your space, one of the greatest tools is to just learn how to breathe in and out and be more conscious of what's going on with you. So we looked at this, and I think that for me, one of the things that I would just like to acknowledge is the fact that we are all on the same page. We all have similar struggles. We resonate with a lot of the answers that came forward. And I hope that is also just a moment to normalize where you're at. The questions you are asking are not alien, are not unique to anybody here. Sometimes we get lost in thinking that we are the only ones going through something. So if you could just take a moment and breathe in and out. And I want you to think about the things you have written, for those who wrote in the chat. For those who didn't, these were the questions. Just pick one thing or two things that you would like to use to work through this entire session as we go. Okay? Think about that issue that you think you wish your child was more of. More proactive, more confident, lack of motivation shows up in being lazy and putting off tasks and just not managing their time well. And if you're worried that if they are not like that, they would end up a certain way. I resonated with one that says there's a sense of overconfidence in your child, and sometimes you're worried that if they go on like that, they may not have good relationships, or it will be a turn-off for others. I think we all have different things that we are worried and concerned about, and it makes a difference to come together as a community and be able to share them. I would like to just get engagement. I don't know if we can turn on our unmute or just put in the chat. I would just like you to tell me what you see on this picture. I know there are those who have been in my sessions and maybe you have seen this. If you haven't, if you have been in my session and you haven't, or you've never seen this before, that's cool. Let's go. Wendy, are you able to check and just say?
Yes, anyone who raises their hand, I can also allow them to talk, but they're welcome to type in the chat.
What do you see here?
Susan
I
says
see
a shark
some
goldfish. Esther
a
sees
shark
sky.
sky.
Deborah, I can see a fish, goldfish specifically. Alice is seeing a dolphin tail. Nyambura says goldfish. Emma see a golden fish, but the fin looks like a whale's or shark fin. Edwin, a fish. Marion, what is that fish she has mentioned there? It's disappeared. Dollfish. Oh, maybe dolphin fish. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what she means by dollfish. Fish underneath a shark fin, perceived as a shark, but really is a goldfish. Goldfish with a shark wing. Two different types of fish looking as one. Under the water, it's a golden fish. Above, it's a dolphin. There's a shark and a goldfish. Fin is for a shark, but body is for golden fish. A big fish in an ocean. Small fish submerged with a huge fin. Ocean, sky, shark, golden fish.
The sky looks dark.
Yeah, stormy weather.
And it's calm.
Goldfish with dolphin fish and water. Aggressive waves underneath a calm ocean. Goldfish beneath the fin of a shark. Sky looks dark. Water. Shark fin, goldfish. Ooh, la la. Do I keep going?
No, it's okay. I like, and then Mariana says, chaos above, calm below. All right. Yeah, we can go on and on. I think you should all give yourself a pat on the back and know that you have scored 100%. Okay. So think about the things that you put in the chat or you're thinking about as the areas that are sources of struggle for you and your children. Most of the time when we see those things, we see them as sharks, okay? Because our children's misbehaviors, if you were here in the last webinar that we did in December, and I'm sure you can access it on YouTube, we talked about how our children's behaviors trigger us, okay? So most of those behaviors, children who are lying, those who are hiding things from us, those who are talking back at us, what they do for the most part, if we are not at a place of learning to breathe in and out and self-awareness, our children's behavior trigger us. And when they trigger us, they actually trigger our fight or flight response, okay? And so when you find yourself yelling and talking a mile a minute, and you find yourself doing a 2-hour lecture because of something they have said, and you can't stop talking, and you're just going on and on, or piling one negative consequence after another, one punishment after another, or you use the chopper and you chopper them, or you just do things that you later regret. What is really going on is that you have interpreted perception, that behavior as a threat to you. without knowing, okay? It's a threat to you, and it sends you off on a flight or fight, and we become more reactive than responsive. So what I would like us to do in the next few minutes is to begin to realize, and when you see at the top, it is stormy. So during an intense moment, if we are not self-aware, we tend to react to our children because we see their behaviors as danger to our existence, to our ego, to our image. Sometimes it's danger because for you the danger is real. You're like, they're going to fail in life. I mean, there's someone here in the chat who said they will end up, if they don't take care of their physical health, they're eventually going to die. That's a valid concern. But when that is what is going on with you, when your child now maybe is not taking care of their health, they're not sleeping well, they're not eating well, or they are eating junk all the time, they tend to trigger you into being reactive. What I would like us to do in the next couple of minutes in this session is to invite you to begin to realize, or to remind you, because you already know, to remind you that beneath the shark that you're seeing is a goldfish. Is a goldfish that actually has very real needs, a need for connection, a need for attention, a need to belong, a need to be loved, a need to be trained, okay? And so I'm inviting us into that space of beginning to identify the needs of the goldfish. When, and let me just go back again, and be able to meet the needs of the goldfish during the calm times. If we focus on meeting the needs of the goldfish during the calm times, we have less and less shark moments at the top. So this whole conversation today is about identifying these needs so that we have less and less over time, because this is not a space of quick fixes. So I hope you are ready to do this with me step by step, real slowly, and or as fast as we can manage, so that we also keep within time. The things that you have talked about that you wish your children were more of, the struggles around lack of motivation, really have to do with 10%. I'm sure you've come across this concept called the iceberg. What behaviors that we see, misbehaviors that we see in our children are 10%. And positive parenting, because this is a positive parenting webinar, positive parenting is about stepping back and trying to see what is the 90% that is causing misbehavior. What is it that I need to pay attention to? Because if I pay attention to that which is at the bottom, then we begin to see better behavior as we go on. And also to just realize we will never eliminate misbehavior 100%. So what is in that 90%? We have feelings, and not just feelings, but big feelings, feelings of anger, feelings that are overwhelming, fear, frustration, the sadness, the crying, all that are somehow tied to the struggles that we are seeing with our children when it comes to self-motivation. Okay, now just remember, a lack of self-motivation results to misbehavior, to what we call misbehavior. So we are really just going to be looking at what we are considering as misbehavior, specifically aligning with the issue of lack of self-motivation. We have thoughts, but we need to remember that that goldfish is struggling with certain thoughts about themselves, certain feelings, certain there are ways that they have, there are things they have believed about themselves that they are struggling with. They are also struggling with the fact that in the past they have tried this thing and it hasn't worked. So there are memories there about past experiences. And because we are wired for negativity as human beings, by nature we are wired to focus on what is negative, because negative, when we see what is negative, it pushes us, it pushes the brain, it activates the brain to protect us. So emotions are very, very important. And sometimes the emotions will be connected to a past experience, to a memory that makes us fear because something happened. And so because it happened 2 years ago or last year or even last week, it is very familiar, and therefore I am afraid. I'm not going to try it again. So think about a child who was trying to learn how to swim and then they almost drowned, and that was last week or even last month, and they are very much afraid to go back. No amount of trying to talk them out or to threaten them will get them out of that place, because in the brain it's registered. There's an experience I had. So think about that for any other issue that your child is experiencing. Could there be a past experience? Still part of that 90% is their environment. The environment that they are in, is it conducive? Okay. And then a really, really big one is lack of skills. So this issue of lack of motivation has everything to do with the things that are underneath. And that is what I would like us to focus on in this session, to help us to figure out how do we nurture self-motivation in our children, and how do we release ourselves from the need to fix it quickly. I will really go around this space of it's not a quick fix, it's about nurturing. And therefore, with everything that we are going to talk about today, you're going to have to pick one thing and say, I'm going to work with this until I begin to see it, to see the results, even as I incorporate other things. Wendy, if you feel there's a point we need to stop and address questions, just feel free to stop me and we will continue. Nurturing takes time. So this session is about inviting you to step back, to reflect, and accept to take the longer route. If there is something very common about positive parenting, is that there is releasing of shortcuts and quick fixes and focusing on just cultivating a relationship, taking the longer route. The long route is usually the shorter route in the long run. And we know that. We know that shortcuts really never take us anywhere. They give us immediate results in the moment, but we don't dig deeper. So we are always focusing on how to fix these children, on how to take away the behavior. But the reality is that if we only focus on the 10%, we find ourselves in those negative, repetitive cycles, because we are not really dealing with the real issue. When we take the long route, it's not comfortable. We are in a society of quick fixes. We're in a society that is so focused on results. And therefore, the instinct is to fix it immediately. One of the things I hear commonly parents tell me is, I've seen some behavior in my child. I'd really like to nip it in the bud, okay? We love to use phrases like that, nip it in the bud. And we imagine that nipping something in the bud is getting rid of it completely. But when you really think about nipping something in the bud, is actually just removing something small to create room, and growing continues. But when I ask parents, what do you really mean about nipping in the bud, is more of, I just want this thing to go away because we've done this. So can we just get rid of this misbehavior? Okay. So, so the question is, are you ready to release immediate results? I want to see a couple of yeses before I go on. If I don't see yeses, unfortunately, we'll have to end this session. I'm just kidding. Are you ready to release the immediate results? Can we see a few yeses? Yes, I'm ready. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Krista. Thank you. Thank you.
You can also use a reaction, people.
Yes,
if you
can
don't want to
use a
type in the
reaction.
chat.
Yes, thank you. I love engagement, so I might ask you very weird, simple questions just so that I can get you to respond to me. So if you are, then take a moment to let go of immediate results and breathe in. I don't know what you want to let in. Is it wisdom? Is it the right tips? What do you want to let in? Patience, peace, more understanding, more love? Just take a moment to let go of the quick fixes and invite yourself to a space of open-mindedness and learning some more. So let's stop attacking the shark and let's meet the needs of the goldfish. Sometimes we have to step back and let go of misbehavior as we chase the why. Another thing that as we work with parents at Stawi, we tell them, are you willing to just step back? You're seeing this misbehavior at whatever level. You know, we are talking about even in the space of addictions and things like that. Are you willing to step back? Let go of what it is you're seeing here as the big issue and just chase the why. What is really happening? And I usually tell parents, you don't necessarily need a therapist and a psychologist to help you discover the why. In the context of a relationship, we figure out what's going on. In the context of a relationship, we heal. Some of us will need to see professionals. That's given, but not necessarily for everything that's going on if we are inviting relationship. It's inviting you to shift from the question, why is my child unmotivated? It's good to ask that question, but the more important question is, what does my child need? What does my child need? What is the underlying need? Okay. So again, this is just to reel us back. I'll repeat some of these things because I really desire that they land for us. Okay. The issue we really are dealing with is not lack of motivation. We're dealing with the things that are in the 90%. There's a great book by psychologist Dr. Ross Green, and the book is called The Explosive Child. And I love some of the things he says in that book. He says, children do well if they can. Just let that land. Children do well if they can. I think we've been raised in spaces where children are seen as manipulative, as people who have, you know, the badness in them, and therefore we need to take away that badness. But really, children, if they can, they do well. Think about the goldfish that we looked at in that diagram. There are moments when you've had a lot of cooperation from your child. There are moments where they have listened to you. There are moments when things have gone well. It's not always the negative part. Children do well if they can. And he asks, why would any child not want to do well? Children who have concerning misbehaviors, they are lacking skills. Okay? So the invitation here is to shift from misbehavior to a skills gap. What skills gap is there? And he's very specific and says, yes, when it comes to motivation, because our focus for today is motivation. Children are lacking skills that are related to flexibility, adaptability, being flexible, just being flexible. And you remember, I think some of us were saying, I wish my child would listen, would be more open-minded, would be more obedient. That has to do with flexibility. Adaptability, my child is very stubborn, my child doesn't listen. Is there an opportunity for your child to learn to be more adaptable to situations? Why? Because we also get the sense that nowadays children are entitled and they will not take no for an answer. All that has to do with lack of skills, ladies and gentlemen. They lack skills to do with emotional regulation, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that. Frustration and also emotional regulation, just again to remind us that the other webinar also really went a little bit deeper on how emotions are processed. So good plug to go back and have a look at that video as well. Frustration. Okay, they're lacking skills related to how to handle frustrations, how to tolerate frustrations. All right, skills related to problem solving. So that's what Dr. Rosgreen says, that children do well if they can. So I want you to think about your child and that issue and just allow this statement to land. So and so can do well if they can. So and so can be more confident, can be more obedient if they can. Now, I know it's a big statement to make because sometimes they do that, but I want you to look at it from the space of, do I provide an environment where I'm constantly teaching them? So what are some of these skills needed for self-motivation? All right. There's a skill called metacognition. I'm going to give you a little bit of some positive psychology, brain science, all that psychology language. Metacognition is just thinking on an advanced level, basically thinking about your own thinking. Do you take a moment to think about what you're thinking? Right now, are you thinking about what you're thinking? Basically, it's an invitation to just be more self-reflective. Okay, metacognition, being able to think about what thoughts are going on in their mind. Remember when I give you the slide that has the iceberg? Underneath there, it's thoughts. So there's a lot of thoughts that our children have about themselves that are self-defeating, and we need to help them begin to think about what they're telling themselves. Working memory, basically remembering details during the learning process, just remembering details. Imagine it takes skill to remember details. Now, some children naturally do it, some adults naturally do it, but even for those who it comes more naturally, it takes skill to be able to cultivate, to remember details. So how can you support your child? How can you set them up for success so that they can remember details? Skills to do with flexibility. So teaching your child to try different strategies, to try different things, to say, if this is not working, let me try something else. That is fundamental to self-motivation because they give up easily. So that means they're struggling with flexibility, okay? And I'm telling you for sure, these skills I'm talking about and these concepts I'm talking about in this session, we all need training in, even as adults. Skills that have to do with attention. So our children need training in how to focus on one thing, to stay focused on one thing and avoid distractions, rather than just tell them, why are you all over the place? They actually need skills. Skills for time management. I think it came up when we were having this conversation, just how to use time effectively and efficiently. Skills for persevering through, working through from the start to the end, finishing a task. They need skills for that. They need skills to know how to take initiative, to initiate a task, to take responsibility, to getting started. Exams are coming up, but they're just procrastinating. Dishes are in the sink, procrastination, okay? Task initiation is a skill. Self-control, which has to do with self-regulation, managing their emotions, processing their feelings. Again, a lot of information we talked about in the previous video, and in the previous webinar. And then organization, okay? And organization basically is just being able to have some semblance of a system, not a perfect system, but some semblance of a system. Let me just plug in my computer, some semblance of a system that can help them to be more responsible, to track their activities and things like that, okay? So I want you to look at this screen and ask yourself, where's my child in all this? All right, I am complicating this thing because I want us to stop thinking that we can fix our children quickly. And as you look at this, I would like you to just tell yourself, I have time. You know, we are talking about preteens and teens. And one of the things sometimes we believe that we don't have is time. So we want to cram and fix all of them very, very quickly. But the reality is that all these skills are what we call the executive functioning skills, which are as a result of the frontal lobe or the prefrontal cortex or the thinking brain, the part of the brain that is responsible for all these skills is executive function. They are called executive functioning skills, and they don't fully develop until after 25. So we're tracking together. Think about what it is that you're struggling with your children. Think about it as a 90% and not a 10%. Think about it as a skills gap that need to be nurtured over time. While we release fixing it quickly, think about 25 years. All right, you have time. Yes, they're leaving after 18 and maybe they'll go to college and all that. You still have time. I think one of the biggest tragedies in our parenting space is when we say we are losing our window of opportunity. So I'm inviting you to breathe in and out and release the notion that you have a very short time with them. Even the 10 minutes, the 15 minutes of connection we have with them makes a big difference in the overall scheme of things. Because when our children are connected to us, they are more cooperative, they respond to us better, and therefore we are able to teach these things from the basis of connection. So a task for you is think about the skills that your child needs, okay? Commit to nurturing them through training, all right? And the question, so that becomes a number one tip for nurturing self-motivation. Identify the skills gap and commit to nurturing that skills gap through training, okay? Here are the skills once again, and allow me to move on. Before I move on, a quick commercial plug. We have a very specific content on how to train children, and I will not say much about it. I just want you to keep it at the back of your mind. We will share details about it later as we end. Number two. So number one is identify the skills gap and commit to nurturing it through training. Number two, prioritize the relationship. I will never have a conversation on parenting. It's not complete for me if I don't talk about relationship, okay? Because virtually all parenting dilemmas boil down to one thing. Again, step back, think about that thing that you really are desiring your child to be self-motivated in, and think relationship. Relationship is the glue, it's the fertilizer that helps us to nurture. Every dilemma we have in parenting boils down to relationship. When you ask parents, what do you desire for your child? They say, I want my child to be happy. I want them to develop leadership skills. I want them to have meaningful relationships. I want them to be resilient. Okay, resilience is a big buzzword nowadays. I want them to live a purposeful life, a meaningful life. They don't have to be successful in the worldly standard, but are they living a life of meaning and purpose? I want them to be responsible. I want them to be self-motivated. All these outcomes depend on whether at least one person shows up for that child. So much research, so many books written around relationship, so much written about the stable adult And that's even at STAWI, we are very, very big on you being the stable adult, being the at least one person who commits to showing up for your child. You as an individual. I can see there are 124 of us. Here, we can commit, each one of us, to be the at least one person in our children's lives. Can you imagine if all the 124 of us did that? We already have a community of stable adults. And that's what I love about the fact that NACADA is really focusing on positive parenting, because positive parenting is about really equipping you to be that stable adult who shows up. What does showing up mean? It means just taking the commitment to develop a healthy relationship with your child. So again, taking you back to the issue that's bothering you about self-motivation, think about the skills gap, and remember you are the stable adult who is in place to nurture it in your child, okay? So how do then, just a few things on how we can prioritize the relationship. This is just a snippet of all the things that we share and the tools and strategies that we give. Catch them doing good and speak it, say it. Give direction from a place of connection, okay? Give direction not from yelling, not from a distance, not always. If you're spending your time with your children, 70% of your time directing, giving directions, commanding them to do things, instructing them all the time, 70% of the time, we are not connecting. A child who feels connected or more attached to you is more likely to follow your direction. The more connection time we put in, the better the behavior we get. If we use force and drama and punishment all the time, we will get what we want. We will get what we want. But at what cost? It's at the cost of connection. Why? Because children naturally respond from a place of connection. And if when we get real, we talk about addiction, okay? The same wiring that happens in the brain when addiction is happening, when they are getting addicted to something, a certain way of wiring in the brain happens. The same pathways that are created by addiction are the same pathways, the same wiring that happens when you're connecting with your child. So it's a no-brainer. Which one would you like to choose? Okay? You can't have both. So let's connect. Let's create time for connection. And so the call to you for this specific tool is make time for one-on-one connection. What is that one thing you can start to do today to consciously connect with your children one-on-one, each one of them? Focus on that, pick it, and let's go for it. Okay? Number 3, help your child to uncover and change their limiting beliefs. You cannot be able to get to number 3 if you're not connecting. You cannot be able to get to number 3 if you haven't begun to identify what some of those skills that they need. Okay? So what are some of the limiting beliefs? There are so many. Maybe I could just have a few of them in the chat as I put the only ones that I had time to put here. When it comes to performance, our children believe that their identity is tied to their accomplishment. Thanks to the school system, okay? Even for us, my grades are about who I am. We're always talking about grades, 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 or the accomplishment, or the prizes that we owe, the trophies and this. Another limiting belief is my present challenges mean that I will struggle in life. Okay? My worth is determined by circumstances outside of me. I have no control over what happens to me. So it's important that we get to a place where we are helping our children to uncover their limiting beliefs. And I hope you realize that even for you, you need to identify what your limiting beliefs are about life, about performance, about school, about grades, about yourself, about others around you, about your environment. Okay? How do we then help our children identify these limiting beliefs and work through them? And I will show you one of the best ways as we get to the end. So I think in the interest of time, I'll just ask you to think about others, other limiting beliefs that our children have around that, around their performance. Number 4, I'm looking at the time. Number 4 is help your child identify their strengths. So believe it or not, research shows that when we identify our strengths and cultivate them, then we experience better mental health. I've said believe it or not, but I'm sure you've come across it. It's something we know, that when we focus on something that we love, something, if we identify our strengths and we enjoy doing them and we commit to practicing those things, then we experience better mental health. When you experience better mental health, you are at a better place to deal with the things that are in your 90%. You think better about yourself, you're more motivated, you're more confident. And therefore, help your child identify their strengths. I think sometimes because we get so caught up on what we are doing as a community, what our friends are doing, they're signing their children up for swimming. This child is a great swimmer. This child is a great ballet dancer. This child is very good with musical instrument, that we completely forget to step back and figure out what really are our children's strengths. We dismiss the things that they love and enjoy, especially if we don't see a direct relationship to what it is they are doing to a job, okay? The reality is that if we allow our children to be in the space where they are cultivating things and pursuing things that they enjoy, even if we don't see a direct link with the future or with a job, they're cultivating positive emotions, and they'll be able to transfer those emotions in the other spaces that we are trying to influence them in, okay? So in line with this, I know I would just like Wendy to just drop in the chat that VIA survey. It's called a Values in Actions. And I actually want you to take that survey because it helps you identify your top 5 strengths. Actually, it gives you 24 strengths. It has 24 strengths in total, but it helps you identify what your top 5 are. And this is something you can actually take with your children and just create conversations around how they're using those strengths, okay? And you'll be surprised to know what those strengths are. You know, a strength of hope, wisdom, okay? Very, very interesting kinds of strengths that we may not necessarily see as strengths. Compassion, most of the ones that are considered soft skills, okay? But just it gives you a lot of information about even what it is you can do to cultivate them. So VIA survey, it's viacharacter.org. These are called character strengths. They help us even in being able to just live more meaningful and purposeful lives, because now we are pursuing things that are important to us. I don't know what you were expecting in this session, but my job today is to give you very practical things that you can actually do and things that can help you connect with your children and have conversations, okay? And then number 5, water what you want to see grow, all right? I just take a pause here and see, is there anything that you would like me to pay attention to, Wendy? I can see we're doing quite okay with time. Any questions, any comments that we could address before I look at this, because this is the last one.
Okay. I think I just want to mention 2 things Marion pointed out at some point in the chat.
Mhm.
that open communication should be encouraged, and parents should focus on listening first before hitting with the questions. Abdul Nasir also emphasized that keeping a positive mindset, or for us and also our children, helping them develop a positive mindset is important. Those are the two highlights I'd pick from now. Otherwise, you're doing okay.
Thank you. I love that we are contributing. Please, there's no right or wrong here, and I just love the input that we are giving already. The reality is that we learn from one another, and even me, who's been in this field for this many years, there is so much I learned from the parents I work with. So thank you very much, Marion and Dina Seal.
Incoming question, which you may address now or later, is how do you connect with a child who is always rude to you?
Okay, that's a really, really, really good question. Okay, how do you connect with a child who is always rude to you? I would just like to invite you to begin to think about even just the word always, okay? Not from a place of judgment, but from a place of being realistic. I know that this child is not, because always means all the time without stop, okay? So these words always and never also come into a place of mindset that cause us to always see these situations as shock moments. So step back. I get it. I resonate with that question, and I hear you. It does sound like it's coming from a place. It can be frustrating. Let me put it that way. It can be frustrating when all you see is this child is always rude. But the reality is that there are moments when they have listened to you. And I always because sometimes we want to cram too many lessons at once. Okay. My internet is unstable. I hope that you can still hear me. I can see it says unstable.
Yes, you disappeared for a few seconds.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yes, you are. Loud and
Okay.
clear.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So the pick one thing you want to work on, that's number one. Then put it on the side, put it in one box. And this other box, have a conversation with your child saying, you know what, I don't know how old your child is, but usually I tell parents, you can always use this session as a starter for a conversation. I attended a class, I attended a webinar, and this person was saying we should actually create time to connect with our children just by themselves. So I'm here. I want you to think about that thing that you would like us to be doing together regularly. You choose, okay? If they are younger, they'll be excited. If they are teenagers, they will doubt you, but you make the decision that no matter what, you will follow through with it, okay? Our children respond to connection just like any other. We also respond to connection, so make the effort. And when you put it there, make sure that you be consistent in following through with that thing that it is that you have chosen to do. When you do it, be fully present, phones aside, and say, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, start there. Even as you're thinking about all these other things that you need to do in terms of discipline and everything, make one-on-one hanging out time a priority with this child, no matter what they do. So whether they get into trouble, whether they continue to be rude and all that, it's the need for connection that will draw them back in. Okay, I hope that answers. Let me then just move forward, and then we can collect all the questions, because now I can see it's like the questions there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat, and I don't want to start getting into answering right now. How would your child complete this sentence? My mom thinks I am dash. My dad thinks I am dash. You can put it in the chat, or you can just put it somewhere on a sticky note or somewhere in your notebook or even in your heart. It really says a lot about what is going on with you and the relationship that you have. You could even ask them to complete this sentence. So that's a reflective question. Rudolf Dreykus, he is a psychologist from way, way back who talked about, he talked a lot about family relationships and parenting. And he says, a misbehaving child is a discouraged child. How do we discourage our children? We discourage our children when we ridicule them, when we criticize them, when we yell at them, when we mock. Sometimes we mock. We are very sarcastic with our children. Let's be real, okay? When we humiliate them, all right? When we overprotect them, that is also discouragement. They get discouraged because you're sending a message that they're not capable. So overprotection also leads to misbehavior, all right? When we talk about them negatively in the presence of an adult, when we label them as shy, smart, difficult, picky eaters, genius, labels, even labeling your child as my genius or the smart one, can lead to discouragement. And I'll show you a video that helps you really, really understand that better, okay? So step back and watch this with me. Hopefully it will play.
Check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really, really easy non-verbal IQ test. There were 10 questions.
No
and at the
video,
end of the
only
test,
audio.
They praised all the children in one of two ways.
Only audio.
The first
Oh,
group was
sorry.
praised for
Yeah,
their
I can just
intelligence.
see it. Let me
So
stop
they said,
sharing.
wow, great job. You must be really smart at this.
Yep.
Now the second group
Just a
was praised for
minute.
their effort. So they said, wow, great job.
There, and we start, because I realized it was saying resume sharing. I was like, what is going on? All right, so let's see. Let me share it again. And we go here. Can you see it?
Yes, but you've not clicked play, but we see the video.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to be sure that we can see it first before we start worrying. I'm trying to make it bigger, but it's not. And I don't want to waste too much time. So let's just start.
Check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really, really easy non-verbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of two ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, wow, great job. You must be really smart at this. Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, wow, great job. You must have worked really, really hard at this. Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible.
So I want us to be together up to that point, because I want us to remember the point number 5 is what are what you want to see grow. But there is a how that is very important. We find ourselves encouraging in ways that actually end up discouraging our children. And so think about these two ways. One, praise your child for your intelligence, or my smart genius one. Or look at the effort and say, you must have worked really hard. So I'm not going to pause it again. So let's just go through together.
So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the two groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now, the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first, and you will surely do well on it. Now, the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happened.
Child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talent. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really, really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now, this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with. So teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth. I think this is a pretty easy fix that will help us develop growth mindsets within the kids that we work with. And as all the research shows, having a growth mindset has a big time impact on the development of a child, whether it's on the court, in the classroom, or just in life. Thanks so much for following along and watching this video. For more like this, visit championshipbasketballschool.com.
All right. I wanted us to experience it without me having to tell you how important it is to focus on process as opposed to end result. That video is available and Wendy will share it together as part of the communication or in here. I don't know how you choose to do it. So really, what you want to see grow. Focus on process, not the end results. Do you see how that is very much related even to us as parents? Focusing on process, focusing on effort, and trying to find vocabulary and words around process-oriented conversations with our children. Not what number were you? You got 3 wrong and 2 right. Why did we get? Look at improvement, look at effort, look at process, and have process-oriented conversations. That is very, very fundamental to self-motivation. Among all the other things that we have talked about, this is also very, very important. Dr. Carol Dweck has done a lot of research in growth mindset. So again, if you are a book person and a research person, go check it out. A lot of things you can borrow if you are a teacher, you're in education space, to just look at what does it mean. We have growth mindset and fixed mindsets. We're having those conversations at our places of work and dealing with adults, but we're not really thinking about how that is useful, because many of the things we do to motivate our children are actually sapping their desire to learn, because we're always looking at the end product, okay? So from, it's inviting you to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. You'll hear our children say a lot, and I think one of us said here in the answers, my child is very negative. So there's always, I can't do it, I can't do it. So as part of relationship and cultivating a relationship and having process conversations with our children, Dr. Carol Dweck proposes the word yet. Add yet to whatever it is your child is saying. I can't do it yet. So you can also check out TED Talk she has done on the power of yet. Adding yet makes a big difference because there's hope, all right? I give up as opposed to I will keep trying, I will keep trying. I'm not good at this. I'm going to try a different strategy. That is flexibility, okay? And adaptability, that's skill. That's how we cultivate it. It's too hard, but you change it to, this might take time and effort, but I will get there. A fixed mindset says I'm not smart enough. And a fixed mindset can also say I am smart, okay? So it's actually both ways. We don't wanna also use those to fix our children, or I'm a genius, okay? I always like to say, I used to call my son a genius until one day I asked him to study for something. He was like maybe in year 3 or 4. And he told me, I don't have to study, I'm a genius. And that's when I knew we had a problem. We had to change. So it's important for us to ask us, what are some of the things you're telling our children? And like Carol Dweck says, when we hammer those things in them, then they begin to only do the things that will get them the approval. They start avoiding, they go for the easier option that will quickly get them the praise, and especially from those whose approval matters. And it's not, they become approval addicts, okay? And that becomes an issue when they become teenagers and they're unable to say no, because they're addicted to quick fixes and approval. So it's important for us to cultivate a growth mindset within ourselves, but also as we are raising our children. So in conclusion, we are saying when it comes to what you want to see grow, children who need encouragement the most get it the least because they are always in trouble. A lot of these kids that are always in trouble, they don't get the opportunity to be encouraged. And therefore, they get stuck in the cycles. So you're looking for issues with self-motivation, go deeper and ask, does this child get enough encouragement? Even in the little things, just in the little things. Because the more you water that, watering what you want to see grow, then the more connected they become to you, the more cooperative they become. A misbehaving child is a discouraged child, according to Rudolf Dreyfus, and therefore we need to figure out what behavior you want to improve in your child and find opportunities to encourage them. That is your other task. Pick out a behavior you want to see improve. Find opportunities to water it, And we are not talking about praise, we're talking about encouragement, okay? Talk about the process. So here are just some phrases you can use. You don't have to use them word for word. You can pick them and find your own version, okay? You really worked hard on this. Even if they have failed, but there was some work they put into it. You did work hard on it. That's what I call perseverance. When you see something they're doing and they keep doing it, that's what I call kindness. Call out those things that are not necessarily, quantifiable, like kindness, okay? Call out kindness when they are treating their sibling nicely. You say, that was very kind of you. Call out those things. I appreciate your help when they do something, even small, for you. Now that's teamwork. Again, back to sibling rivalry. Sometimes they are always fighting, not always. Most of the time they are fighting. So when once in a while you see them try to do something together, put a word to it. Help them begin to put vocabulary, to put language to these conversations, okay, to the things that they do. I trust your judgment, okay? I can tell you really care. And this is something you can even tell a child who comes home crying that they've lost their friend, or their friend is not their friend anymore. Rather than say you can find other friends, call out the caring part of them. I can tell you're a caring person. You care about other people and all that. So these are just some of the things. And like I said, find your own version of using process-oriented words to encourage our children. You are improving every week. You're improving every day. Go Google some of the conversations, the phrases that you can use that work for you. As long as we are focusing on watering what you want to see grow. Naomi Aldott says, you do not water a flower if it blooms. You water it so that it blooms. You don't wait for it, your child, to do the right thing for you to say something. You say something, you cultivate it so that there can be more of that. So back to this is what we were covering today. How to nurture, the keyword being nurture, the keyword being process-oriented, the keyword being looking at the skills, keyword being looking at the why these children are struggling and not trying to fix it. So this is really the summary of our conversation today. These are the 5 points that I was looking at today. Pick what it is and train, prioritize relationship, uncover and change limiting beliefs, identify their strengths using the VIA or any other. There are so many other assessments you can do. I like VIA because it's very positive psychology oriented. And that's a lot of where I draw the way I work. Strength-based. What are what you want to see grow, and then join our community. So in the next 2 minutes, I just want to tell you a little bit about some of the things you can join us in as we go, but reminding you not to judge what you're doing by the harvest you see today. Do not judge your parenting by what you're seeing today, but judge your parenting by what it is you're sowing today. And I hope you can pick one thing here and start sowing it, because eventually it will bring you results. If you need more support, you can get a copy of our book, okay? And a link will be shared here so that you can be able to let us know what it is. Check a box and tell us what it is that you need in terms of the services that we offer. This book is Parenting with Your Heart in Mind, and it's a really great tool to help you prioritize the relationship. The question that you ask, how do I connect with my child who is always rude? Maybe this is the first step for you, is to get a copy of this book. The other product, we have many products, but I just want to share 2. The other product that's very relevant for this conversation that we are having, if you want to set yourself up for the long term and nurture for the long term, you can access this pre-recorded 5-series masterclass where it can help you to identify the skill set. We actually help you figure out how to turn turn this, what it is you're seeing, into a skill, to reframe. The word is reframe, to reframe the skills gap so that you say, this is the skill that we need. Understand why children misbehave, how to give age-appropriate consequences, how to train in a way that is effective and be consistent in the training, and how to have conversations that connect. So if you are a parent, If you're a teacher and you would like to access this recording, they are already pre-recorded. The first part is free. We will make it available. And these are the charges. There's a QR code there. You can just go ahead and access it, because within this day, before the end of the day, if you fill out the registration, you then take advantage of the discounted rates that we have. The book is usually 1,500, but you can get it at 1,000 if you register. The Discipline Masterclass, the 5 pre-recorded sessions are 8,000, but you can get it at 4,500. And if you wish to get only one, because there are 5 parts, okay? If you just want to get one of it, to get a test and see if this is something you really want to do, you can get it at 1,500. I've stayed with this slide for a while because I would like you to get that QR code. This, again, is a summary of the conversation that we have had today. And I would like to hand it back to Wendy, who can now finish and land this plane. Also just have some time for questions and answer. You can answer by saying what I now know is. Then if you'd like to get in touch with us, those are our contacts there. I don't know if you're able to just give me a minute so that the people can take a screenshot of the.
Oh, sorry. Is it okay if I send it by email?
Sure, no problem.
All right. I'll be sending everybody an email for this within 24 hours with all the links for the YouTube video, for the test. Was it a personality? Yeah, the one for strengths test, and also for the sign-in form with the details of your discount. We are out of time. It is 8:30, but we responded to some things as they came up in the last, should I say, quarter is where a couple of other questions came up. But I think they are more showing that we need more sessions, not really on clarity of things that you've talked about today, because the people talking about, projecting our own beliefs, limiting beliefs onto our children. How do we develop a growth mindset? How do we address, several issues that I think warrant a whole new webinar. I don't think we'll ever really run out of things to talk about because, like Daktari has said, we are always learning. There's always new things, new ways of doing things, and because we are not perfect. So the most important thing is to pick an area that you can work on. So thank you guys for putting things in the chat. I asked for you to put in Q&A so it can help me separate, but there was only one that was put there that I addressed. Please scan what's on your screen or go to Menti, but you're also welcome to respond to these on chat as we wind up. There are people in the chat asking about whether we'll send them their notes and all of that. This session is recorded. It will be posted on the Nakada YouTube channel. So go back there, even for those who are here today. Sometimes you need a couple of listenings for things to digest, or like she said, we focus on one area, work it out. Something you want to go back to, you didn't quite get, you come back to it on YouTube as many times as you would like to. All right, so the proof of learning is in the doing. So what's the one thing that we plan to do after today's session on motivation? Carol talked about a skill that we think needs to be built in our children. It could even be a limiting belief that you want to work on. What is it that you want to work on so that before you log out of here, you have decided what's the one thing that you are going to work on? What area are you going to water? Is it your praise that needs change? Do you need to praise and encourage, focusing on effort and process rather than being evaluative? What is your one thing? Before I give you all of my one things, please type in the chat or share on Menti so we can see it here just like we did at the beginning.
Right. Did people get the QR code or they go to menti.com and do the 4226?
Yep, I hope they did that. I'm seeing the code is still up there,
Maybe you
but I
can
can
just
also go back to the scanning if anyone
yeah,
prefers to do that.
scanning is a lot better.
The more specific you are in your takeaway for action, the more likely you are to follow through. Because sometimes we attend and we think, oh my goodness, that was so informative. That was encouraging. My goodness, Dr. That was a powerful session. Today I am changed. But like you said, this is a long haul project. Skills building, nurturing is not overnight. There's no quick fix it here. We are talking about a long journey. So, what one thing that is doable, phrased as an action that you are going to do starting today? Okay, so in the chat, someone says going to enhance skills with their children. Hey, George, let's go and identify which skill. If there are multiple children, child number one, this skill, child number two, this, because all of them are different and have different needs. Juliet says, oh, okay, she got it. Janet says, praise and encourage. Stop the yelling. Yes, catch yourself when you yell or before you yell. And like we centered ourselves at the beginning with Daktari, breathe. Breathing actually reduces your chances of yelling because, like we learned even in the last webinar, that when we are breathing, we are slowing down and shifting from fight response, to a more appropriate, calm response. Frecia says she's going to listen more to her children. Emma wants to prioritize the relationship with each of them. That's her key takeaway. So, Emma, I hope this week you'll be doing from tomorrow or today, if they're not asleep, depending on their age, 10 to 15 minutes per child, one-on-one time. Millicent says she's going to identify the skills gap. Nathan talks about just grateful. We were on this hard dialogue with my children yesterday. A lot happens. Okay. So I think Nathan was reflecting on some conversations with his children yesterday. Hopefully you picked up one thing that can help you approach that conversation in a more nurturing, helpful way. Positive mindset. Andrew says, patience, patience, patience. I think children were sent to us to test our patience. Oh, is it build? Actually, build our patience, not test it. Build it and expand it. Nelly says, prioritize one-on-one relationship with children. Najla says, connect with my child more, try and understand, and extend more grace to him. Stop yelling, spanking. Eric says, encourage the effort and process and also the teamwork abilities among the siblings. Oh, yes, the siblings. When they work together, how glorious it is. Evarista, correcting bad behavior from a point of connection. Connect before you correct. Focus on the goldfish, not the whale. Hilda says, it all boils down to the relationship with my child. Joseph is going to work on yelling. Jeremiah is saying his parenting, his takeaway should not be what he's seeing right now, but focusing on what he is sowing years from now. David is going to do more negotiation with boys on their strengths and areas of improvement. All right, and we can see on the screen that we have people who are going to be focusing on connection. Less yelling, I see, is a big thing for us. Praise, focusing on the process, encouragement, intentional parenthood. That's awesome, people. I really pray that you will be able to do that. And remember that it's every day, even if you have to put it on a post-it today, on your mirror every day, so that you can look at that thing you have resolved to do today and grow in it. Behind every young child who believes in himself or herself is a parent who believed first. So just like Carol has said today, children do well if they can. They do well also when they believe they can, and they believe they can when they see that we believe that they can. So let's choose to be that one stable adult in the life of our children. Some of you have mentioned that there are challenges when it comes to co-parenting, you know. Sometimes you're not even co-parenting. You live in the same house, but you have different philosophies, but it only takes one. So let's choose to be that one every single day because it makes a huge difference. Lastly, as always, we love your feedback. So we would like to know from you, what are the areas you would like for us to tackle in our next webinar? You can arrange them in order of priority, or if you're using the chat, just type what is the one, your top area when you look at this list. If it's also not here, you're like, those 5 options are not even mine. This is my priority. Type for us what your priority is in the chat so that we can be sure we are meeting your goldfish needs. Yeah. All right. So I'm giving you a few seconds to work on that. I can see some responses are in. Awesome. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome today. You have been plugged in, you have been present. I think one of the things I'm learning from Carol's 2 sessions that I may include in mine, physical and virtual, is that act of just coming to the present and breathing in and breathing out so that we can actually be in the moment. As you can see, my t-shirt today says, enjoy the moment. I think so many times we are thinking about the next moment that we forget to enjoy where we are at. So thank you for being here, for connecting, for being in this moment. It has been awesome. I see your things as you put them in the chat. I can see your priorities. I'll be able to come back to this later. I'll not go into it right now, but all your views count, and we thank you for your openness in sharing with us today. Okay, we have come to the end, and please, I live on your feedback, knowing that what we bring to you is what you need, that our webinars are meeting your needs is super, super important to us. So please take some time to fill in the survey. The link is in the chat. The code is, the QR code is in front of you. You can scan that. The sooner you do it, the more likely you are to do it. If you procrastinate, like unself-motivated children, to do it tomorrow, you are less likely to do it. So be the same people of action you have been since we started today, and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. All right, you're welcome to interact with us, NACADA, through our website. We have a lot under Info Hub, a lot of resources, research that we have done. We have booklets for parents, children of different ages. You can interact with us on socials, on X, Insta, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And like I said at the beginning, this week we are commemorating the National Substance Use Prevention Week. This is part of that. We have activities all over the country. And then on Thursday and Friday, we'll be having the Prevention Summit at All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi. Pre-registration has been running. We hope that you are going to be there. If you're able to be in person for the 2 days, Thursday and Friday, you can also check out the section on the Prevention Week on our website to learn more, but you're welcome to interact with us always on the socials. And right now we are using the hashtag National Prevention Week Kenya, KE, to share all that we have on these discussions. So thank you so much for joining us today, and even for your perseverance and your patience, because it is now 8:45. Parting words, Carol.
Parting words. Oh, I wish I had a quick speech. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
I see what you did there.
To really just remind us that we focus on growth, we focus on sowing the seeds, and whatever it is that you're seeing today is not the not the end, but do not judge your parenting by what you see today. You judge your parenting by the seeds you are sowing, seeds of connection.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And I'll be at the summit as well.
All right. Yes, Carol will be speaking at the summit. So please make your way to All Saints and get to see her face to face and listen to her and, and make more connections, connect with other people in prevention. Parenting is hard enough. When we come together, it makes the load easier and you realize I'm not alone. And what a big relief it is to find that the things we struggle with, other people struggle with too. Others have, overcome. And so we can learn from each other. So thank you for being part of our parenting village. We will see you online. Have a good night or good morning, evening, whatever time you'll be listening to this. Thank you, Susan, for being in the back of the tent.
Good to
Anything you'd
see
like
you.
to say that I may have forgotten?
No, I already put there that Dr. Chakua will be there in person. Yeah,
Great.
for
Looking
those
All
who
right.
will attend
looking
the
forward to
conference, the
seeing
summit.
you. Yes. Yeah.
Or
And
there is
when
no charge. I can see Janet is asking about charge. There's no charge to attend the summit. Just you being there, being present and being connected. So looking forward to having an amazing time online and there. Goodbye, everybody.
And many more things.
All right.
Yes, many more
look forward
things.
to it.
I'm sure some people don't even know that there is a parenting family policy. Yes, that will also be shared there.
Okay. So there's lots to look forward to. A lot of new
Yes.
learning and sharing and networking.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm off to be a present parent before my children go to bed.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Great job, Wendy.
Oh, thank you for being here. It was an
Yeah.
awesome
All
session.
right. Thank you.